Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert. I'm Bryna Blum, your worship associate this morning. So pleased that Laura Nile accepted my invitation to be with us today. Please know before we begin that probably half of our congregation is at the Pride Parade today. So this is no reflection on our esteemed speaker. Before I tell you about Lauren, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Lauren N. Nile is an accomplished author, keynote speaker, organizational development trainer, and retired attorney. She specializes in helping organizations create environments in which understanding and kindness are valued, and as a result, every person is equally welcomed and uniformly appreciated. The goal of Lauren's speaking, writing, and training in the greatest society is to help the human species mature beyond bigotry, hatred, and violence. Her wish is for humanity to grow in understanding our profound human oneness in the wisdom that results from that understanding and in the compassion that arises from that wisdom. Her fervent desire is to help all of humanity to see the divine in themselves and in each other. Lauren's latest and recently published book is titled On Race and Religion: My Journey from Jim Crow to Mysticism. Finally, and I just learned this last night as a by the way, Lauren will be playing the part of Maddie in the January production of the play Let It Rain, at script to stage to screen. We have a future star among us. As we begin today, let us acknowledge that we are on the historic homelands of the various bands of Cahuilla people, and we honor the unique relationship that we hope emerges between our community and the indigenous people and their traditional territories. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Cahuilla people whose land and water we benefit from today. I also want to acknowledge that in this congregation, we welcome people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, of all ages, of all sizes, people of all economic statuses and professions, of all physical and mental abilities, people of all races and ancestries and cultures. We welcome you wherever you come from, whoever you love, whatever your immigration status or civic engagement. We welcome all those who will learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world and to build a community centered in justice, compassion, and most importantly, love. You are welcome here, and we are glad that you are with us this morning, here in the sanctuary and at home. We'd like to take
Thank you, Joel. Good morning, everyone. Our opening words this morning are two quotes from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., speaking about love and the power of a loving spirit. Dr. King said, "Love is the greatest force in the universe. It is the heartbeat of the moral cosmos. He or she who loves is a participant in the being of God. Only through an inner spiritual transformation do we gain the strength to fight vigorously the evils of this world in a humble and loving spirit." Our opening hymn this morning is Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. And as we sing, my invitation to you is to enter our service with not only your physical body, but indeed to enter spiritually, to enter with the intention of generously sharing your loving, compassionate energy with all who are present in our sanctuary this morning. My invitation is for you to rejoice and be glad in our wonderful togetherness, to come in and to be nourished by our fellowship. In accordance with your comfort, please rise in either body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. The words are on the screen.
And now if you'll read along with me, the words for our chalice lighting. May this light we light remind us that every one of us can bring light of life. May this clear flame be a symbol that every heart can burn bright with joy and peace and harmony. And may the wisdom of the ages speak to us through this flame and stay in us. Every one of us can be a blessing to the world. And now if Lauren will light the BIPOC candles for us. In solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey together towards spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our principles so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail. The reflection this morning is to be responsive, if you'll read along with me, and I'd like us to read it through twice. It's by the Dalai Lama. It is essential to know that to be a happy person, a happy family, a happy society, it is crucial to have a good heart. World peace must develop from inner peace. Peace is not just the absence of violence, but the manifestation of human compassion. It is essential to know that to be a happy person, a happy family, a happy society, it is crucial to have a good heart. World peace must develop from inner peace. Peace is not just the absence of violence, but the manifestation of human compassion.
Our prayer and meditation are adapted from words of Mahatma Gandhi. May our divine Creator keep our words positive, for our words become our behaviors. May our divine Creator keep our behaviors positive, for our behaviors become our habits. May our divine Creator keep our habits positive, for our habits become our values. May our divine Creator keep our values positive, or our values become our destiny. Our hymn for meditation, as we continue to sit, let us sing our hymn for meditation, Spirit of Life. The words are on the screens. Well, as Bryna said, our congregation is a little small this morning. Is the mic okay? Okay, good. But I'm glad that the reason is that so many of our friends here at UUCOD are at the Pride celebration today in Palm Springs. So we wish them well, as Bryna said earlier this morning. So good morning again, my friends. I'm happy to be here with you this morning, and I'd like to once again thank my friend Bryna for inviting me to deliver the morning message to all of my UUCOD friends. The title and the theme of my brief remarks today is Living as Beings of Love, Our Ultimate Calling. Living as beings of love, our ultimate calling. So let's begin by examining both what it is and what it means to live as a being of love, and what it is and what it means to have a calling. First, living as a being of love. What is a being of love? In order to answer that question, we must first answer the question, what is love? In researching it, I found the following definitions and statements. Love is the deliberate act of caring for and listening to others. It is wanting others to succeed, to be happy and fulfilled. It is the feeling of strong affection for, attachment to, and dedication to another or others, such as our love for our child, or perhaps for our parent or parents, for a friend, and yes, even for a pet. But the most interesting statement that I found in my research is that the feeling of love, the flow of love, occurs as we spiritually mature, and it is a joy to experience. So for each of us to live as a being of love, we must deliberately care for others, our fellow human beings. We must listen to each other. We must want each other to succeed in our lives, however we think of success. We must all want all of our sisters and brothers of humanity to live happy and fulfilled lives. We must have a feeling of warm attachment to or deep affection for our fellow human beings, for all of our fellow human beings. Now, I know that in hearing that, the questions that arise for many of us are, is it really possible? Can I love everyone? Can I have deep affection for the entire human race? Is that even realistic? Well, my answer is a resounding yes. Yes, I believe that with all my heart it is possible, and thus that it is realistic. The path toward living as a being of love is a path toward spiritual maturity. And I believe that living as a being of love is possible and realistic for all who strive for spiritual maturity, all who are on a conscious path of working to be self-aware and aware of others. For those of us who are on a deliberate, lifelong voyage of attempting to be fully present in every moment with both ourselves and, possibly most important, with others. Living as a loving being is possible for those of us who are on an intentional journey of spiritual maturity. Now, how do we take the first step along that path? How do we embark upon such a voyage? How do we begin such a journey? Well, first, we must know that the path, the voyage, the journey exists. In other words, we must be aware that spiritual maturity is indeed possible for us, and that we can indeed travel the sacred road that ultimately leads to it. We must comprehend that as human beings, we have within us the potential to live as beings of love. And indeed, some in our mystical traditions believe that we have the potential to live as enlightened beings. In order to start the journey toward that goal, at least the goal of spiritual maturity, we must believe in its possibility with every fiber of our being. Second, we must identify our personal path. We must find the path, the road, the journey that's right for us personally. Now, I know that many of us, the majority of us who identify as Unitarian, believe that there are many paths. I certainly believe that. As both an undergraduate major in philosophy and a graduate student of comparative religion, I learned quite a bit about many of humanity's great faiths, and in so doing, became convinced that there are indeed many paths to spiritual maturity. Whether it be the wisdom of the ancient and esoteric Jewish Kabbalah tradition, the Christian Gnostic tradition, the Muslim Sufi tradition, or the profound wisdom of any of the great Eastern mystical traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, Sikhism, and others, as human beings, we have discovered many pathways to spiritual maturity. Each of us must find the path that deeply resonates for us, within our heart, that speaks to our soul, knowing that ours is not the path, but instead it is one of many equally valid paths that are available to the human soul. Third, having found our personal path, we must then take the all-important action of taking that first step onto the path and doing its work, whatever the work of our specific path is. For some, it's performing continuous acts of service for others, always with a kind and empathetic heart. For family and friends, of course, but also for strangers, especially for strangers. For others, it's being in a state of prayer as much as possible, as often as possible. For still others, it's regularly reading or listening to words of spiritual insight and engaging in a sincere, earnest effort to both deeply comprehend and internalize their meaning. Some practices have us begin each day by making a silent commitment to be a compassionate and an aware person throughout the day, and then end each day by taking an inventory of all of our words, our actions, and even our thoughts during the day, asking ourselves, was I as patient as I could have been during that exchange? Perhaps about another circumstance later in the day, did I listen as empathetically as I should have to that person? And perhaps in yet another interaction, how in my thoughts, in my words, and my actions could I have improved the outcome of that misunderstanding? Still, other systems have us engage in physical movements that may eventually lead to divine ecstasy, such as that of the Sufi whirling dervishes. And of course, there's the wisdom found in the traditions of many of the indigenous peoples of the Americas and Africa. The path that many wisdom traditions recognize, and indeed the one that I find most personally fulfilling, is that of meditation. Meditation. I've heard it said that when we pray, we're talking to God. And that's good. That's very good. That when we meditate, we're listening to God. I believe that that is true. I believe that when we meditate, we have the potential to hear the divine. Meditation, done regularly, eventually quiets our ever-busy mind. In the Buddhist tradition, it's referred to as monkey mind, meaning that like a monkey in a tree that jumps from limb to limb, our minds, every second of the day, constantly jump from thought to thought to thought. I have a quote on the wall of my meditation room in my home that reads, "Quiet the mind and the soul will speak." For the vast majority of human beings, our minds are like runaway trains. If we tried our best to sit still in silence, in internal silence, i.e., with a quiet mind, for even just 5 seconds, most of us could not do it. It is extremely difficult. But when we meditate, if we stick with it, if we do not give up, if we continue to sit still in meditation, experiencing without judging over and over and over again our busy monkey mind, eventually, in time, our thoughts begin to slow down. Our mind begins to quiet. Then, slowly, we are able to hear the noises of the house settling, or our stomach gurgling, or the bird chirping in a nearby tree. We develop the ability to sit in internal peace, to sit without the steady agitation of monkey mind. Now, for many people who have been meditating for a while, that's all there is for quite some time, just the silence of a still mind. And that alone is both an accomplishment and an amazing experience. Indeed, it is a kind of peace that cannot be described. It must be experienced. Indeed, I believe that it is truly the gateway to the peace that I heard about as a child in my family's spiritual tradition, the peace that passeth all understanding. But after a while, after having experienced that place of mental internal peace many times, we find that we actually begin to change. We notice that our behaviors are undergoing a shift. Not only do we experience peace in meditation, we become more peaceful in our everyday lives. We notice that we are more patient in situations in which we were formerly impatient. We begin to notice that we are more forgiving of those who have hurt us in the past, and that we feel ourselves actually having compassion for them. Conversely, we begin to notice that we are more able to be more honest with ourselves about the times when we have hurt others. We notice that in our speech, we are more courteous, perhaps no longer cutting people off or speaking in such a way that we dominate the conversation. We notice that we share when we have something to say, and that we do so in a more gentle, respectful manner than we previously had. We begin to see that we have changed in how we listen to others, that we are genuinely and deeply listening in a courteous and very pleasant manner, very present manner. Indeed, we notice that we are more fully present in every moment with every person. In essence, we note that our very heart has changed. And friends, when that change has occurred, when we begin to do all manner of things that we had previously never, then we begin to do all manner of things that we had previously never done. We may, for example, now say a private prayer for the unhoused person whom we just saw as we exited the Home Depot parking lot, or for the person in the ambulance that just passed us, or for our sisters and brothers whom we see on the nightly news who are living through the horror of war. Once you've experienced that shift, you may even notice that you now take bugs that you find in your home outside because it's become too difficult for you to kill them. certain bugs. In other words, we realize that we are evolving, that we are spiritually evolving. My friends, I believe that it is at this point, the point at which we begin to spiritually evolve, that we have the potential to truly begin living as beings of love. It is at that point that we begin to develop the capacity to love not only all human beings, but indeed all beings. And not only all beings, but also this gorgeous earth of ours with all of its wondrous natural beauty. In saying those words, I'm reminded of the quote about love that I found in my research. The feeling, the flow of love occurs almost spontaneously as we spiritually mature, and what a joy it is to experience. This is what it means to live as a being of love. But what does it mean for us to have a calling to live as loving beings? The Oxford Dictionary defines a calling as a strong urge toward a particular way of life or a particular career. And it defines urge, among other things, as a need, a compulsion. So I believe that to say that we, and by we I mean all of us, all human beings, I believe that to say that we have a calling to live as beings of love is to say that we need to live as beings of love. In other words, that we are compelled to live as beings of love. Now, why do I believe that? To answer that question, tragically, all we must do is look at our world. Just look at our world. All of our human problems are, in the final analysis, the result of a great lack of love. All of them. Both individually and collectively, we all have both a shadow side and a loving, compassionate side. And we see both in many contexts every day. Perhaps the most blatant example in our present time of our shadow side is our ability to drop bombs on the innocents of Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, and Russia. And perhaps the most clear example of our loving, compassionate side is our act of immediately searching for, rescuing, and rushing to safety those who have fallen victim to those bombs. Whether on the personal level it is greed, selfishness, dishonesty, vanity, jealousy, prejudice toward people because of how they look, or whether on the global level it is the Chinese government's oppression of the Tibetan people and its Muslim minority population, or the Korean government's total oppression of the hundreds of thousands in its penal labor colonies, or the Taliban's abject oppression of women in Afghanistan, be it the tremendous suffering of our brothers and sisters who are prisoners in the thousands of international human labor and sexual traffic rings, whether it is the evils of sexism, anti-Semitism, racism, colorism, ageism, ableism, heterosexism, homophobia, misogyny, and all other forms of hatred, whether it is the killing in great numbers of our animal friends, or the destruction that we are doing to our beautiful earth, our only home, love is the answer. Love is the answer too. It is the panacea for all of them. Love is the cure. It is the solution. It is the remedy for all of it. If we are internally quiet, if we are peaceful within the horrible war in Israel and Gaza, in which so many innocents have been maimed and killed, would not, indeed could not exist. War itself could not exist, nor could any of those other unqualified evils mentioned earlier. On an intellectual level, we know that we can evolve. We can evolve by using the many tools that we humans, as the brilliant beings that we are, have developed over time. Among many others are our knowledge of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs that culminates in self-actualization, our awareness of temperament differences as we relate to others, our understanding of the principles of mindfulness and engaging in mindfulness practices in our daily lives, our utilization of the principles of compassionate conflict resolution, and our comprehension of our use comprehension and use of NVC, nonviolent communication principles, in our speech. If we are to leave this world worthy of passing on to our children, our grandchildren, and our grandchildren's grandchildren, a world free of hatred and violence, violence to ourselves, to our fellow human beings, to all beings, and to the earth, if we are to leave a world in which peace, freedom, and love abound, we must understand that as human beings, we have both personally and collectively both a shadow side and a loving side. And we must consciously decide to relegate to the dustbin of history our shadow side, that part of us that is capable of hatred and violence. We must take that bold, giant leap of consciously deciding to live in the light of our compassionate, loving side, that part of us that has trained ourselves to live in internal peace and that is capable of feeling true compassion for the victims of wars thousands of miles away, for the stranger in the ambulance in the next lane, and yes, even for the bug on our living room floor. We must know that within us is that place of indescribable peace, and that with commitment and practice, we can both access that peace and live each and every day in the love in which that peace inevitably results. We must work on ourselves. We must each be on our personal path of spiritual maturity toward embodying the love that is inherently ours, the love that we are all born with the potential to feel. Once a critical mass of human beings makes the decision to embark upon a spiritual path toward peace and love, our world will change. As a species, we will mature. Living as beings of love is our ultimate calling, and one that, if as a species we are to survive, not only survive, but indeed thrive, we must heed. Our collective future depends upon it. So finally, my friends, in closing, I remind us that in his characteristic eloquence, Dr. King said it more than a half century ago. Let us listen to his powerful words once again. Love is the greatest force in the universe. It is the heartbeat of the moral compass. He who loves is a participant in the being of God. She who loves is a participant in the being of God. Only through an inner spiritual transformation do we gain the strength to fight vigorously the evils of the world in a humble and loving spirit. I believe that the inner spiritual transformation to which Dr. King was referring is our potential to transform ourselves into beings of love. The potential to do so resides within each and every one of us. Thank you. And as I search for my order of service, I invite you to join us in our closing hymn. Once again, according to your comfort, please rise in either body or spirit to sing our closing hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Before we extinguish the chalice, there are people to thank. Our AV team, who was here before 9 o'clock this morning. Our incredible pianist, who is super accommodating no matter what we ask of him. To all of you for showing up. And most of all, for the incredible Laura Nile, who deserves a weekly pulpit. Now, if you will join with me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction. May we all grow in wisdom, peace, and love. May we evolve to see the divine in ourselves and ourselves in each other. May our human civilization mature out of blindness, ignorance, and violence into wisdom, compassion, and peace. Go in peace, my friends.